What is going on, everybody? Welcome back to the channel, and today I have my Dallas Cowboys season preview for y'all, so let's get into it. So last year they finished with a 12-5 record, which was good enough for second place in the NFC East, and it clinched them a playoff spot, but they would go on to lose in the divisional round 19-12 against San Francisco. So they made the playoffs, but had another disappointing postseason run. And their offseason, they really didn't bring in anybody noteworthy. They did bring in running back Ronald Jones, but they did sign a bunch of in-house guys to new contracts, to new extensions, and that list is pretty deep. So they got safety Donovan Wilson. They re-signed him. Linebacker Leighton Vander Esch, quarterback Cooper Rush, running back Tony Pollard. I know they only tagged him because the whole running back contract dilemma that's kind of going on right now where running backs aren't getting paid, which I think is kind of a shame because running backs are the workhorse of the teams. Anyway, they also re-signed defensive end Dante Fowler, defensive tackle Jonathan Hankins, cornerback Trevon Diggs. They signed him too. I want to say it was like a 5-year extension. So they did really good at re-signing their own guys. They also made trades for wide receiver Brandon Cooks, cornerback Stephon Gilmore to help bolster this team. But they did end up having to cut a decent amount of veteran guys. Linebacker Anthony Barr, who wasn't really with them for too long. Same with wide receiver T.Y. Hilton, not really with them too long. They cut their kicker Brett Maher, offensive tackle Jason Peters, running back Ezekiel Elliott, which was the big cut. They decided that they wanted Pollard to be their featured number one back, so they let Ezekiel Elliott go, who has still not found a team as of the recording of this video. They also let go of longtime tight end Dalton Schultz. So definitely opting to go a different route with most of their veteran guys, letting them go, re-signing some of the younger guys to these extensions. They also brought in a new offensive coordinator in Brian Schottenheimer. So I don't know how much of his scheme is going to really change things in Dallas. I think what's working for them is working for them. They made the playoffs. They just didn't execute in the playoffs. But anyway, moving on to their rookie class. With their first pick, they took defensive tackle Mozzie Smith. Then they grabbed tight end Luke Schoonmaker. They then got linebacker DeMarvion Overshown, defensive end Viliami Fihoko, offensive tackle Asim Richards, cornerback Eric Scott Jr., running back Deuce Vaughn, and wide receiver Jalen Brooks. So they definitely addressed multiple positions of need, and they definitely bolstered that defense, which is kind of the heart of this Dallas Cowboys team. And I fully expect them to be competitive once again, challenging for an NFC East title. I know it'll be tough with Philadelphia in that division and New York, who is probably not on Philadelphia and Dallas's level, but they're still a competitive team who they sent 3 teams to the playoffs last year. So anything can happen in that division. So anything that they can do to make the team stronger is beneficial. But anyway, moving on to their schedule and my record prediction for the Dallas Cowboys. In week 1, they have a Sunday night football matchup against their division rival, the New York Giants. And I do believe the Cowboys can win this game against the Giants. So week 1, they're starting off their 2023 season with a W. And then in week 2, they play the New York Jets. And I do think they have a better team than the Jets. And I think Aaron Rodgers will be just fine on the Jets. I don't think it'll be like a Russell Wilson to the Broncos move for them, but I do think he'll be better for the Jets later in the season than earlier in the season. So this is one of the matchups where I think if they played the Jets later in the year, they might lose. But with this being a week 2 matchup, I do feel the Cowboys can get the win here as well. Then they go to Arizona and play the Cardinals, and I have very low hopes for the Cardinals, so I think this can very easily be a win for them as well. And then in week 4, they have the New England Patriots, which this is just another game where I feel the Cowboys can win relatively easily. And then the next couple of weeks before their bye week, they have a couple of tough games. And I think they lose their first game in week 5 against the San Francisco 49ers, a rematch of that NFC divisional playoff round. The 49ers just get the better of them. And then they're also on the road against the Chargers, which I think the Chargers do get the better of them. And that brings them to their week 7 bye. And they're sitting at a 4-2 record, so definitely pretty good of them. And coming out of the bye, they have the Rams, which I think they can easily take this as well. So a win right out of the bye. But then they travel to Philadelphia, where I do believe the Eagles will beat them. And then they have the Giants again, and I do think the Giants will avenge their week 1 loss at home and take it to the Cowboys. So the Giants, I feel, will get this win, and the Cowboys will lose again. But the Cowboys then win in week 11 in Carolina, as well as beating the Commanders. And then they play the Seahawks here in week 13, and this is the first game in a tough stretch for the Cowboys. First they play the Seahawks, then they play the Eagles, then the Bills, then the Dolphins, then the Lions, And this at Bills, at Dolphins, and back-to-back weeks, that's just a tough break for them. So I think even though the Seahawks game could go either way, I'll give the Cowboys the benefit of the doubt. Also, mainly because I have them losing the next 4 in a row. I think the Eagles are going to sweep them. Going into Buffalo and beating the Bills in Week 15, this game, there's a potential this game could get played in a blizzard. The Cowboys are used to playing in the warm Texas in a dome. The elements could really benefit the Bills in this matchup. And then Week 16 at Dolphins, I think this is just a tough game. The Dolphins are a good team, so I think they lose that one as well. And then they have the Detroit Lions in Week 17, and I have real high hopes for Detroit this year, so I think they'll lose this one as well. So a tough 5-game stretch right here. And if they go 1-4, if they do anything better than that, good for them. Full-heartedly good for them. But then they close out the season at Washington, and I do think they could very well win this game. So that brings their season total to 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So they finish out this year with a 9-8 record, which I think this is kind of on the low end of what they're capable of. Yeah, they'll probably win a little bit more. I think their ceiling's probably what they did last year, about a 12-win season. I think their floor is about 7-10. I do think they'll be competitive once again this upcoming year. This 9-8 record could possibly be good enough for a wild card playoff spot. So it really just depends on how healthy the Cowboys are, how well they just play as a whole. So yeah, let me know what you guys think about this record. Do you think the Cowboys are going to win the division? Do you think they're going to be one of the worst teams in their division? But yeah, let me know your thoughts. Like the video, subscribe to the channel. I'll catch you with another season preview, and hey, God bless.